All right. Perfect. So just to start off with, just to get some background, could you give me
Mhm.
your first and last name as well as your age, the neighborhood where you live, and your occupation outside of politics?
So my name's Liddy Huntsman Hernandez. I'm 37 years old. I live in the Avenues, and my occupation, I'm a stay-at-home mom and then an advocate.
Okay, perfect. What are some of the, I guess, just by saying advocate, what are some of the
Mhm.
the issues that you're most passionate about that you've advocated for in the past?
Yeah, so I've been an advocate for type 1 diabetes for 30 years. And as an advocate within the type 1 diabetes community, I've really pushed mental health. I created a program with my mom called the Bag of Hope, which now is 5,000 people annually receive it. And it really is talking about the mental health, right? Like the roller coaster of dealing with a chronic disease. So I'm really just been fighting for my community where we've never had a seat at the table. I also was able to help pass a Medicare bill that would allow people on Medicare to have access to certain insulin pumps, where before they would not be able to do that. So, my whole advocacy is just helping people where they normally wouldn't have a voice or a seat at the table. But for me, the advocacy now within Salt Lake City would be more with mental health, and I'm very into law enforcement. So any sort of advocacy work where I see a fit for my voice, that's where I want to be involved with advocacy. But type 1 diabetes and mental health is really the areas of my background with advocacy.
Okay, very cool. Um, kind of
And a
the
failed stand-up comedian. That's my late night job that I do, which it probably explains why I'm doing this next. It was kind of the next best gig for me. So politics. So
sounds good. If you're not at a comedy club at night, you can be at city council meetings.
hey, they're about the same as an open mic. They're the exact same people, things you talk about, same thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so just kind of the easy question, why are you running for city council? Why are you trying to get involved with local politics?
So I was born and raised here in District 3. Was also diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in this district. It means a lot to me. And I think that when you start growing a family and you start realizing what it takes to build a family, right? You need a village. So where's my community? Where's my familiarity? And where do I believe I can give my kids everything that I had growing up? And for me, District 3, we had so many kids in the neighborhood. We were always playing night games. And so for me, we were living in the Dominican Republic before, which is where my husband's from. So we moved back here about 4 years ago. And moving back in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, I realized how much had changed. And so I feel like the advocacy and just is in my nature. It's just kind of when I see something, I want to make change. So for me, I think the next best thing for me to make a difference within this community that I love, it was to run for office. And I'm so passionate about local politics. So yeah, that's really a big reason why I want to give back to this community because it's given me everything.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Just kind of starting to talk about policies, sort of thing. So the city council has made a number of changes in the past, couple of years. The kind of stuff that, we focused on a lot at Building Salt Lake was, the recent overhaul of the mixed-use zoning code and, bicycle infrastructure, downtown parking, that sort of thing. So I guess just kind of generally, with some of the changes that the city council has made in the past couple of years, what's kind of your take on some of these changes? I mean, I've kind of heard from people that say, I agree with some of them, and maybe less, maybe they don't agree with other topics, but I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I think that some of the changes have had a good intent. But safer streets, clear zoning can always be positive, but I don't think it's been implemented correctly. So when you are required to have a 20-foot retail space in mixed use, that not only gives more cost to the construction, It also is not guaranteed that retail spaces are going to be full. And I think we've seen that downtown Salt Lake. And so I also think that with the parking thing, mind a little bit of how we even got to this place. But because we have taken parking, we've had to raise it.
Oh, I think I lost you there for a little bit. Are you there?
Sorry, you froze.
Oh,
Was I
um,
still talking or did you?
it froze on my end too,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay. Okay.
I'll turn my camera off so it can kind of, focus on the audio if that works for you.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I don't know where I froze, but I was talking about how I don't think it's fair to be required to have a 20-foot retail space in mixed use buildings when it's going to create higher costs for construction. But it's also going to, I mean, real retail spaces, as we've seen downtown, are not always guaranteed to be successful. I think with the parking thing, that's something that for me, I'm trying to understand how we got to this place downtown, which is upping parking to 350 and then extending enforcement, all due to taking away parking spaces where we've now lost a significant amount of revenue. So now the people that have to pay for it are the residents. And so for me, I'm trying to figure out what is the long-term plan when it comes to downtown. I've talked to a lot of voters who are having buyer's remorse when it comes to voting for the bike lanes. There's not been enough transparency about what that actually means, how that's going to affect our commutes to work. So I just think that we need to start maybe looking at what we've implemented and seeing how is that working in the future, because I think that parking is a great example of what not to do. Because already with inflation and all these things that are going up, I mean, everything in the city, salaries aren't going up, right? But everything else tends to be going up. And so when we're in a budget deficit, I would hope, and I think that's what's pushing me to run, is to kind of, I want to get in and see where have we gone wrong on this, right? Like, why are we having to up parking? Why didn't we think about that we were going to lose revenue when we took out certain parking spots and things like that? So yeah, I do think that some changes have good intent, but I do not think that they have really been implemented in the correct way to help save Salt Lake at this point.
Okay. And so with like some of those topics with the parking changes as well as, some of the changes to mixed use zones, if you were on council, I guess how would you kind of handled some of those changes? I mean, I don't know if you're kind of thinking of, just needed to ask questions and kind of make adjustments, or, if these changes are the kind of things that you might not agree with and would ultimately vote against. Just kind of trying to get a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, I think as city council, right? I think like the two issues that city council, because what is a city council? It's an advocate for your district. It's an advocate for the people's voices. And so for me as city council, like the only test that I would be doing is asking, does this improve livability? And does this improve affordability? Those are like the two things. And right now, both of those do not answer the questions with this. So you have retail spaces, right? Look at 4 South, local, that strip right there of that was the same concept of retail space. It's now vacant. And what happens with vacancies is you create more vacancies, and people are gonna, our homeless problem is only going to increase with more vacancies. So those are the two questions as city council that I would really ask. Does this improve livability? Does this improve affordability? And does this help families succeed in the city? Those are my three things as city council that I would ask on any project that's given to me.
Okay. Okay. So kind of in that vein, just with the transportation. So, District 3 is, unique in the fact that, a lot of the avenues is pretty built out, a lot of kind of, narrow streets, bike lanes, like what you were saying. But as far as transportation goes, I guess in your opinion, what do you think is kind of the the biggest issue with transportation that constituents in District 3 face as of now?
So I think that the biggest issue is really the lack of a transportation master plan. You have the University of Utah that is going to grow by 2030 to 40,000 people, and they're getting rid of parking. And that may not be in my district, but my district feels it so heavy. We are the spillover from traffic downtown on South Temple as well as the University of Utah. On top of that, we can't hold enough of like the spillover, right? Because we have
Hmm.
incredibly dangerous intersections in the avenues. And so I think that that's something that we need to start talking more about because the congestion is uphill and we need to fix that. So I think that we have a lot of work to do with transportation in terms of the congestion because it's just become a congested situation.
Hmm. Yeah, and with a master plan, I guess I guess what would you kind of want to see with a master plan like that? Just kind of making sure everything is organized and it's not just kind of thrown together, or, kind of what do you think about that?
I think that we have the infrastructure to create a great transportation plan around bikes, the front runner, tracks, buses. I just don't think that we're organized. I mean, we have buses that run every 30 minutes, um, versus other places that are every 7 minutes, right? So, how can we make a more comprehensive transportation plan that works not for one group, but for every group? And I'm really concerned about the influence of special interest when it comes to our transportation model. So that's kind of, I think where D3 is a really heavy district when it comes to transportation issues, especially with the University of Utah growing the way that it is. We're also going to be expecting the Ryan Smith project that's going to be growing. Nobody talks about that, right? There were talks that a cement plant was going to be taken from Tooele and it was going to put more towards the end of the Marmalade district so that cement trucks had easier access to the Ryan Smith entertainment group thing that's going on downtown. So, and then on top of all of this happening, District 3 is going to be having the temple opening in 2027. That is supposed to be expected 7 days a week for 6 months, 30,000 people a day. So, if we want to talk about transportation, we need to talk about the future, not just about, okay, what's good in 3 months, what's good in 6 months. We've got to talk about what's good in 20 years when we cannot fit every single person in this entire city. How do we make it more easily accessible? That's really what I want it to get to, right? Like moms have kids that they've got to get to sports after schools. You have doctors that want to bike to work up to the U. You have college students that want to take the bus. We have got to find a better comprehensive way where everybody feels, again, the test that I want to give to every plan that I get, does it help improve livability and does it help with affordability? And for families. Those are the three things that I really, and this is the same thing with transportation. I'm still trying to understand the transportation issue within District 3 since I've seen it go through so many changes. But yeah, we are at a crossroads right now when it comes to transportation, either making or breaking District 3. We also have projects like the Ivory Home Project, right? That is going to increase about 84, 82 cars. Think that the congestion uphill is my biggest concern when it comes to District 3.
Okay. Yeah, and um, one of the things that you touched on was just, trying to make Salt Lake City more family friendly. And that's I'm glad you brought that up just because I mean, that's something that I have heard from a lot of people just kind of talking about how, Salt Lake City is becoming more and more one bedroom apartments and if you're trying to find like, even a family size apartment, it's becoming more
Mhm.
and more difficult. So I guess, in your opinion, what are some ideas that Salt Lake City can become more family friendly?
So when I grew up in District 3, there were families everywhere. There were kids everywhere. I've moved back. Schools are closing because families cannot live here. We have housing affordability, not only in just affording, we can't even afford the homes that are going up for sale in our district, let alone the brand new multi-million dollar townhomes that have been sitting unsold for over a year. So I think that in terms of family planning, like you have to say, how do we help support families? District 3 does not have a rec center, right? Like schools are closing. I've run into multiple people as they're in the midst of moving out of their house to move out to Daybreak or move to Colorado. I think that the policies that we're putting in place downtown are not family friendly. And I am a witness of this because I'm a mom of two boys and I've lived in a lot of other places. And I do not believe that we are on track to help support families. I think our policies downtown, to be honest, have been the best thing for Draper and Daybreak. Best thing.
Yeah, yeah, I also know more and more people that are moving down to Daybreak, just here and there.
You talk about like the apartments, right? Like,
Mhm.
so like with zoning and things like that, you have a lot of affordable housing. Like everyone wants to talk about affordable housing because we're seeing it everywhere. We know we need it. But this concept of affordable housing in terms of like a one bedroom apartment, that is not family friendly. No family is going to live in a one bedroom apartment. That's families are trying to look for stability. They're not trying to look for, okay, what's the next day? What's the next day going to be? So I think that in terms of if we're building all of these apartments, we kind of have excluded how families want to live. And I think we need to get back to building policies that are heavy family supportive. I don't think that downtown is being supportive at all of families, right? Like families with multiple kids, we need cars. We need to drive places. We need to go skiing. We need to go to soccer. I mean, all of my soccer games are out in Daybreak, up in Ogden. And so families need to feel like they are supported. And again, is their improvement of livability and affordability happening with these policies? That's what I would ask.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, and that kind of plays into, some of the next questions I have. You mentioned the $1 million townhomes. I think I know exactly the ones that you're talking about up in District
It
3.
used to be a lovely gas station. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's actually two. There's one on East Capitol Boulevard. Last I checked, they were not sold. I have to double check on that because you never know. They could have sold last night.
Mm-hmm.
But then yes, the ones I believe one unit has sold. But listen, these have been on the market for over a year, and my
Mm-hmm.
whole issue is like, why are we trying to build more in the avenues, not Marmalade? I think the avenues, right? Like we can't even afford homes that are going for sale as is. So let alone like these big, almost $2 million townhomes that I don't think are conducive to this district.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I
I
guess kind
think
of,
that, yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. Sorry.
No, so like, so kind of in that same vein, just in terms of, kind of increasing density, not necessarily building, 7-story apartment complexes or anything like that. But, what do you think can be done in District 3 to, accommodate the city's need for housing? I mean, I don't know if, the solution is like townhomes everywhere, but, I'd just be curious to kind of get your take on, you know, what are the sort of things that City Hall could do, specifically in District 3 that could, help with affordability and if, density, could play a part in that.
I think that right now in Salt Lake City, we have too many of the wrong kind of units that are being built. Um, I think when it comes to District 3, I think heavy avenues area should be very gentle density. But in District 3, we actually have an incredible space that I think would be great, which is in the Marmalade District. We have a lot of unused land over there. And most importantly, it's really close to Front Runner. It's really close to a lot of transportation, walkability, things like that. And so I really think that we should look more into growing the Marmalade the way that it was intended to be grown. So yeah, I think that in terms of I mean, we don't have any room left in the avenues. And the avenues, I want to be able, my whole thing is like smart growth. right? Like, how do we preserve the character of the avenues while also being able to grow in a smart way? So we have places like Smith's, right? So if that lease goes up, there have been talks, you probably know more about this than I do, but there's been talks that there's going to be like a 6-story, mixed use type of retail apartment situation. Then we have LDS Hospital that inevitably will change, right? You have a lot of land there. And then you have the Ivory Homes project that has really upset majority of the residents here in District 3. So it's how do we grow in a smart way where we're not, putting, things like I'm not really sure how these townhomes are expected to sell, right? Because District 3, people really like the character. People want to live in a smaller, more community within the avenues. But I think that the Marmalade's a great place to build affordable housing and to expand density in that area because I think we need it over there. And I think they've done a good job so far. We have like the Cambria, a couple other buildings over there that I think obviously it starts somewhere, but I think that's a perfect area for growth within District 3. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, everything along the North Temple front runner stop, I mean, there's just, more and more housing that's going to be going up there. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Um, just so kind of, looking back over to the avenues, I guess what's kind of your thoughts on ADUs or accessory dwelling units? I mean, is that the kind of gentle density that you think could help the avenues, or is that, maybe not so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the avenue should remain single family homes, and I think more of like a modest ADU expansion. I don't, people are very upset with any type of movement in the Avs. Like I've seen it at these meetings, right? When people go and they try to build something bigger, like it's people care so much about this community and their neighborhood. So I'm all about respecting what the residents want here, and I want to be able to the affordable housing, those people that have just graduated from the U that are working here, but we need to focus more on families. There's no reason why there should be schools closing in a district in downtown Salt Lake City. There's just no reason. So I think we need to get back to how do we help families, right? And how do we help people grow from one stage to the next? Because a lot of these affordable housing units are not meant to be forever. You can't even buy them. You can't even own, right? And so families want to be able to own something. They want to, create roots and they want to create a community. And so that's the type of avenues that I want to be able to help preserve and grow.
Okay. Okay. So a bit earlier, I know you mentioned one of the things that as a focus of your campaign is public safety.
Mhm.
So, I just want to kind of get your take on, what do you think Salt Lake City could be doing differently? And then, I guess kind of the same question, but a little bit different. If elected to the council, I mean, what would be the kind of things that you would push for, just in terms of public safety, not only in your district but citywide.
So I think when it comes to, I mean, my district, by the way, our rates in terms of public safety have skyrocketed. We deal with a lot of public safety issues. And I think that we can talk about real estate all day long. We can talk about new projects all day long. But if we're not able to clean up downtown and make it a place where, we don't have one Fortune 500 company downtown. Why? Why is it that people we should be huge with our economy and businesses that we bring here. And why? I really believe it's because of how downtown is run. I've had friends with local businesses that have had to close up shop because they kept getting broken into. So for me, a big reason why I'm running is that I just couldn't stand to see what was happening downtown and I wanted to figure out the solution for it. So for me, public safety, you can't look at public safety and not talk about mental health. They go two and two together. And I realized working with law enforcement and mental health that there's a huge gap between the two, yet that is how we are supposed to do it, right? So cops are only trained to detain, not de-escalate. We have great mental health programs as of now, MCOT, but I really want to create the first mental health task force downtown. And what that means is that it takes a law enforcement officer or someone from the fire department, someone in ambulance, any emergency services, team up with a social worker. So 40% of 911 calls are mental health, yet we're taking away resources from cops that are only trained to what? To do the respective law and to detain. So for me, in order for us to move forward economically, we need to change how we look at public safety. And that's really a huge passion of mine. And I have a lot of friends that are trying to have, companies here, Sweet Green that's coming, and they all want to be here. But once they come and they look around downtown, they're like, we thought it was going to be a lot better than this. And we don't feel like this is the best investment for us. And I think that's hurting Salt Lake City because we need more economic strategies downtown. A big part of economies too in cities are families. So we've got to be able to support families that want to work here, that want to live here. And we also need to be a place where companies want to be headquartered, not, closing up shops. I think that's when there's a huge problem. I mean, homelessness has gone up 18%. Clearly, the city's not doing what they should be doing if it continues to rise. And so I'm very concerned about this effect on the granary, right? When the temple opens, we have the Olympics coming up, which I don't think we can even talk about, right, until we figure out this whole situation. But we're at a big crossroads right now when it comes to the success of Salt Lake City.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Um, well, I guess, is there anything else you'd like to add that I might not have asked about, or, is there kind of a pillar of your campaign that we might not have talked about during this conversation so far?
Yes, we can talk about the most important thing right now. Not only am I the only female out of five, but you don't write that because people shouldn't vote for me because I'm a female. But I'm the only one that is unaffiliated. I really believe, I don't believe that political organizations or special interest groups should have the voices of us, of the people, of the residents. And I think that Salt Lake City is where we are because we have listened to too many special interest groups and we have taken too many political orgs ideologies to help the voices of our residents. And I think that the residents, from what I've seen knocking on all these doors, people are tired of it. They're like, listen, special interests, they're not supposed to own our voices. So for me, I have never been more excited or proud to be unaffiliated because I believe that that's where Salt Lake City, at the end of the day, I always say Salt Lake City is more independent. We say, we love thy neighbor, but don't come on my property and tell me what to do. So for me, I'm like, that's my politics. That's how I was raised. And that's
Mhm.
how I want to be as a city council person. I want to be able to be an independent voice. If you want to say, is Salt Lake City, do you think City Hall is independent? Absolutely not. Everybody votes 0 to 7 with the mayor. So when you say, why aren't these programs being implemented correctly? I'll tell you why. Everybody is part of the same club. Everybody is working for a special interest group. And for me, I don't want any affiliation with any of them. I want to be affiliated with the people, and I want to make District 3 um, exactly how it was when I was little. I mean, I'm raising a multicultural Spanish speaking household, and I want my kids to feel as included as I did growing up on the streets here. And most importantly, I was always taught to leave a better place for the next generation. And I don't believe Salt Lake City can do that for the next generation. So that's why I'm fighting. So yeah, that's that's it.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess just to kind of follow up on that, what are some of the special interest groups, that you've, I guess, kind of noticed have, I guess been, you know, this, I'm trying to get a better idea of like the special interest groups that are, kind of, have their fingers in things downtown. Liddy, are you there? Maybe it's my internet.
Um, well, I think the number one special interest group right now is the Ryan Smith Entertainment Group. Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Y-
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello? Can
Okay, for
Okay,
the
there we go.
best part of the combo. Um, I think yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me now?
We also need to figure out the internet situation in this city. I feel like I never have service anywhere. But yes, okay. So when I talk about special interest groups,
Yes.
the number one special interest group that I think is going to destroy downtown Salt Lake City is the Ryan Smith Entertainment District, or the Entertainment Group. I've been writing about them for 2 years. If I were on city council, I would have fought as hard as I could to not have that go through, or at least have more transparency around it. So I think that's when I say special interest groups. I've had certain groups try to intimidate me at city council or community meetings. And I've realized I've also been intimidated for not registering to a specific party. And for me, I'm like, this is exactly why I'm running, because if I have special interest groups intimidating me, if I have political organizations intimidating me, then I'm doing something correct. And so, yeah, that's what I mean when I talk about special interest groups and political organizations. And I don't want to, I want to be unaffiliated.
Okay. Um, well, Liddy, I moved to another portion of my house, so hopefully the internet was
Okay.
better.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries.
but yeah, I mean that's pretty much all the questions I have. I'll go ahead and turn